Hi there. We're going to talk about temperature and how to do some of the math, which basically boils down to conversions. What temperature is a measure of the kinetic energy of the particles that make up an object. There are three different temperature scales that are commonly used. The first is the Fahrenheit scale. In the Fahrenheit scale, which we don't use that much in science, the temperature for freezing water is 32 degrees. The temperature for boiling water is 212 degrees. Probably the most commonly used scale is the Celsius scale. Celsius is used throughout the world, most places besides the United States, and it's used a lot in science as well. On the Celsius scale, freezing is 0 degrees and boiling is 100 degrees. This scale is actually calibrated to the boiling point and the freezing point of water. In science, because we think of temperature as kinetic energy of particles, if you were to get to a point where the particles inside an object had 0 kinetic energy, that is the lowest possible temperature you could have. Now, on the Celsius scale, which is calibrated to freezing and boiling of water, that point, which we call absolute zero, is far below the 0 point, the freezing point of water. On the Kelvin scale, which is probably the most useful scale for science, 0 degrees Kelvin, called the absolute zero, and it corresponds to absolutely no kinetic energy. Other than the shift to the 0 point, Kelvin and Celsius share the same scale. In other words, 1 degree Celsius change equals 1 degree Kelvin change. This absolute 0 point is far below 0 on the Celsius scale. As a matter of fact, it's at negative 273.15 degrees Celsius. Most of the time when I do my math, I leave the 0.15 off because it's close enough for our purposes. If we were to look at our scales side by side, and I'm going to leave Fahrenheit off this because honestly, even though it's commonly used in the United States, it really has no place in science. If I were to compare our Celsius scale and our Kelvin scale, again, our absolute zero for Celsius is negative 273 degrees. In Kelvin, that's 0. So therefore, when you get up to 0 degrees Celsius, you're at 273 Kelvin. When you get to boiling at 100 degrees Celsius, you're at 373 degrees Kelvin. So that's how they match up. Now, one of the things that I do want to talk about is how we are going to make some conversions when we are going to come up against Fahrenheit. The formula for converting to temperature in Fahrenheit is this one. So what you need to do a conversion like this is place your Celsius temperature in here, do out the math, and you'll get what you get. For example, again, the temperature for freezing in Celsius is 0. If I plug a 0 into this formula, I wind up with 32 degrees Fahrenheit, which is exactly what it's supposed to be. If I plug in the boiling point of Celsius, which is 100, 9/5 times 100 is 180, plus 32 is 212. So this matches up really nicely. You can also convert from Fahrenheit to Celsius, which is probably more useful. And to do that, we're going to solve that same formula for temperature in Celsius. So I'm going to start with the conversion here. First thing I'm going to do is subtract 32 from both sides. And then I'm going to multiply both sides by 5/9. And I wind up with my conversion to Celsius. Probably going to be using this one quite a bit. To make your conversion to Kelvin, you just take your temperature in Celsius and add 273.15. Let's double check that. If we were to put 0 in here, we would get that the temperature in Kelvin is 273.15. 0.15 degrees. That's all we need to do for this video. Good luck with your worksheets.